A wild bobcat, so broken by cruelty that she faced a wall and refused to live, was beyond the help of experts. Her healing began when a woman arrived with a radical idea to do nothing at all. The sun over West Texas was a cruel thing. It bleached the sky to a pale, hazy white. It baked the dry earth until it cracked. Behind a collapsing barn, a line of cages rusted in the punishing heat. They were filled with stolen life. A coyote with a broken leg panted in the dust. Turtles were stacked in a crate, their shells hot to the touch. In the farthest, darkest cage, there was a small bobcat. She had pressed herself into the corner. Her face was turned to the rusted wire. She tried to make herself smaller. She tried to disappear into the metal. For 2 years, this cage had been her world. A poacher had trapped her as a kitten. He dreamed of selling her for a lot of money. But his dreams died in the Texas heat. He left the animals to suffer. The bobcat knew only fear. Every sound was a threat, a footstep, a shadow, a voice. They all meant pain might be coming. An anonymous call brought the authorities. Officer Ben Carter had seen bad things, but this place made his gut clench. The animals were thin and thirsty. Their spirits were broken. The bobcat was the worst. She would not look at them. Her small body shook with a deep, unending terror. "My God," Ben whispered to his partner. "How long has she been here?" They didn't know the whole story, but the scars on her legs told of attempts to escape. Her fur was dull and patchy. It was a sign of constant stress. To get her out, they had to use a sedative. She fought with a wild, desperate panic. Even in the transport crate, she found a corner. She wedged herself in tight. The solid walls were the only thing that felt safe. The Haven Wildlife Center was 50 acres of green hills. It was a world away from the desert cage. It was a place of healing. Susan Hayes was the director. She had worked with wildlife for 30 years. She had seen animals in terrible shape. But when she saw the little bobcat, her heart ached. "Put her in enclosure 9, Susan told her staff. "The quiet one, far from the others. No one goes near her unless you have to. This one will need a lot of time." They named her Luna. For 3 days, Luna did not move from the corner of her new home. She faced the concrete wall. She refused to eat. The water bowl stayed full. Her spotted coat rose and fell with quick, shallow breaths. She was a small, quivering ball of fear. "She's shutting down," said Dr. Leo Vance, the center's veterinarian. He watched her from a safe distance. "It's a classic trauma response. If she doesn't eat soon, we will have to step in." The staff was worried. They felt helpless. Then Clara arrived. Clara was a children's book author and illustrator. She was not supposed to be at the center that day. She had come to drop off a donation of blankets. As she walked with Susan, she saw the enclosure. She saw the small, still form huddled in the back. "What's her story?" Clara asked softly. Susan sighed. She told Clara about the poacher's cage. She told her about Luna's terrible fear. "We've tried everything," Susan said. "She won't respond to anyone. It's been 5 days. She hasn't eaten a thing." Clara looked at the huddled bobcat. She felt a pull, a deep sense of connection to the animal's pain. She set down the box of blankets. "Can I try something?" Susan looked at her surprised. "You're not trained in animal handling." "I know," Clara said gently, "but I know how to be quiet. I know how to be still. Maybe that's what she needs. Not a handler, just a presence." Susan hesitated. It was against protocol, but she saw the desperation in Luna's state
and the quiet determination in Clara's eyes. After signing a waiver, Susan agreed. She would let Clara try, under strict watch. Clara's method was simple. It was radical in its simplicity. She did not try to talk to Luna. She did not rattle a food bowl. She did not make soft, encouraging noises. She walked to the outside of the enclosure. She sat down on the ground, about 10 feet from the corner where Luna hid. She pulled a small sketchbook and a pencil from her bag, and she began to draw the wildflowers growing near the fence. For 2 hours, she sat there. She was a quiet, unthreatening part of the landscape. Luna did not move. Her legs grew stiff, but she stayed. When she left that evening, nothing had changed.
But she came back the next day, and the day after that. She sat in the same spot. She sketched. She was patient. She was silent. On the third day, a small thing happened. As Clara sat sketching, she saw Luna's ear, just the tip of one tufted ear. It swiveled in her direction for a second. It was a tiny movement, but for Clara, it was a seismic shift. It was progress. She decided to add a new element. She began to speak. Her voice was very soft. It was a low, steady murmur. She did not speak to Luna directly. She just described the things she was drawing. "This one is a bluebonnet," she whispered. "The color of the sky just after sunset. And here is an Indian paintbrush. It looks like a flame." Luna's other ear moved. By the end of the week, Luna had changed her position. She still faced the wall, but her body was no longer a tight, rigid ball. It was slightly uncurled. A tiny bit of tension had left her. Susan watched from her office window. She was amazed. "She's not doing anything," she said to Dr. Vance. "She's just there." "Sometimes that is everything," the doctor replied. "A presence that asks for nothing in return." On the 10th day, Clara brought a small piece of cooked chicken. It was warm and smelled good. Luna had refused all the raw meat the staff had offered. Clara placed the chicken on the ground, just inside the enclosure door. Then she went back to her spot and opened her sketchbook. An hour passed. The sun climbed higher. Then slowly, so slowly, Luna began to move. Her head lifted from the concrete. She did not turn around, but her nose twitched. She could smell the chicken. Clara kept her eyes on her paper. She forced herself not to stare, but she was aware of every tiny movement. There was a soft, scraping sound. Clara glanced up. Luna had turned. She was not facing Clara fully, but she was looking at the chicken with one bright amber eye. Her face was beautiful. It had the sharp, intelligent features of a wildcat, but her eye was filled with a deep, raw fear. It was the fear of an animal that had known only betrayal. Clara looked back at her drawing. "It's okay," she murmured. "Take your time. I am not going anywhere." 20 minutes later, Luna moved. She slid along the wall. She kept her body as far from Clara as possible. She was a liquid shadow. She snatched the piece of chicken. She retreated, but she did not go all the way back to her corner. She stopped halfway. She ate the chicken quickly, her amber eye never leaving Clara. It was the first food she had willingly eaten since she arrived. The next day, Clara placed the chicken a little closer to her own spot. It took Luna longer to come for it. She was more hesitant, but her hunger was stronger than her fear. Day by day, the food moved closer, inch by inch, and Luna followed. 2 weeks after Clara started her vigil, a new breakthrough happened. Luna had just taken a piece of chicken from only a few feet away. Clara slowly, carefully extended her hand. She did not reach for Luna. She just rested her hand on the ground between them. Her palm was facing up. It was an offering, not a threat. Luna froze. The chicken was still in her mouth. Her pupils widened. Her body tensed.
Clara thought she would bolt back to her corner, but something else stirred in her. It was curiosity. It was a feline instinct that no amount of pain could completely destroy. Luna stretched her neck forward. Her long whiskers twitched. They brushed against the air near Clara's hand. Her wet nose touched Clara's fingertip. It was just for a second, a brief, electric moment. Then she pulled back. But she did not run. She finished her chicken, watching Clara's still hand. She seemed to be trying to understand what it meant. "That's a good girl," Clara whispered, her heart pounding. "You see, not all hands are for hurting." Susan had given Clara her own key to the center. She knew that this strange, quiet magic should not be interrupted. Clara started spending her whole days with Luna. 3 weeks in, Luna did something that made Clara's breath catch in her throat. After taking her food, Luna did not retreat. She sat down. She was still a safe distance away, maybe 4 feet, but for the first time, she was facing Clara.
Clara got her first real look at the bobcat. Even after her ordeal, she was a magnificent creature. Her coat was starting to get its shine back. The beautiful spots that helped her blend into the wild were clear. Her paws looked a little too big for her body. She was still a young cat, maybe 3 years old. But her eyes were what captured Clara. They were the color of honey in the sun. They held the fire of a wild animal. But behind that fire, there was a question. There was a fragile, tentative hope. They sat like that for an hour. They just shared the same space, the same patch of sun. When Clara finally stood up to leave, her legs stiff, Luna did not run to the corner. She stayed where she was. She watched Clara walk away. The biggest change came on a rainy September morning. Clara arrived with her umbrella. Luna was not in her corner. She was sitting by the enclosure's entrance. She was waiting. Clara sat in her usual spot. The rain drummed softly on her umbrella. "It's a wet one today, huh?" Clara said. Luna's ears twitched at the sound of her voice. This was their normal routine now. Clara pulled out the daily offering of chicken, but she also had something new. It was a single long feather from a hawk. It was a simple toy. She tossed it gently toward Luna. The feather floated down and landed near Luna's paws. Luna looked at it with deep suspicion. For a long time, she just stared. Then she reached out a paw. She tentatively touched the feather. It moved. She pulled her paw back, not in fear, but in surprise. She tapped it again, a little harder this time. She started to bat at it. Her movements became more sure. She pounced. She tossed it in the air. For the first time, Clara saw her act like a cat, a young, playful cat. The trauma was still there, but something else was breaking through. "There you are," Clara whispered, a smile spreading across her face. "I knew you were in there." Luna suddenly stopped playing. She looked at Clara. Then she did something incredible. She picked up the feather in her mouth. She took one deliberate step toward Clara. She dropped the feather. Then she stepped back. The message was clear. She was choosing to interact. She was inviting Clara to play. Clara's eyes filled with tears. She picked up the feather and tossed it back. This time, Luna's response was immediate. They played a simple game, back and forth. It was a game that meant the world. When the chicken came out, Luna ate it from Clara's hand for the first time. Her rough, sandpapery tongue brushed against Clara's palm. The feeling sent a shiver through Clara. It was not a shiver of fear. It was a shiver of pure awe. A wild animal was choosing trust. She was choosing hope over her own painful experience. As the weeks passed, their bond grew stronger. Luna would wait for Clara every morning. She became more playful.
But the true turning point came on a cool October morning. Clara was sitting closer to Luna than ever before. Only a foot of space separated them. She was reading aloud from a book of poems. Suddenly, she felt a weight against her leg. Luna had leaned against her. Clara stopped breathing for a moment. She did not move. She did not look down. She kept reading, her voice a little shaky. She pretended this was the most normal thing in the world. The weight against her leg grew heavier as Luna relaxed. And then Clara felt it, a deep, rumbling vibration. It started in Luna's chest and traveled through Clara's body. It was a purr. It was not the soft purr of a house cat. It was deeper, wilder. It was the sound of contentment from a creature who had forgotten what that felt like. Slowly, carefully, Clara raised her hand. She placed it on top of Luna's head, between her tufted ears. Luna did not flinch. Clara began to stroke her gently. The fur was soft, the muscle beneath was strong. Luna's purr grew louder. They stayed that way for a long time. The sun moved across the sky. Clara's leg went numb. She didn't care. She would not have moved for anything. When Susan found them, she stopped and stared. "Oh my," she breathed. "Clara, do you know what you have done?" But Clara's mind was already on the next step. Her hand was still on Luna's sleeping head. She can't stay here forever. She has to be wild again.
The staff debated the idea. Dr. Vance worried Luna could not survive on her own. Susan pointed out that she had never learned to hunt properly. But Clara was firm. Officer Ben Carter, the man who had rescued Luna, agreed with her. "That animal has earned a chance at a real life," he said. "If anyone can get her ready, it is Clara." And so, the second phase of Luna's journey began. They moved her to a large, multi-acre enclosure. It was full of trees and rocks and tall grass. It was a little piece of the wild. Clara's job changed. She was no longer just a companion, she was a teacher. She started by hiding food around the enclosure. Luna had to use her nose and her instincts to find her meals. At first, Luna was confused. She looked to Clara for her usual handout. But Clara waited patiently. The first time Luna found a hidden piece of meat, something inside her woke up. An ancient memory. She crouched, she stalked, she pounced. Clara watched with a heart full of pride and a touch of sadness. Every success brought Luna one step closer to leaving her. Next came live prey, mice and small rabbits released into the enclosure. Luna's first attempts were clumsy. Her timing was off, but she learned fast. Her instincts, buried for so long, came roaring back to life. She became a swift, silent hunter. For 2 months they practiced. Luna grew strong. Her coat was thick and glossy. She moved with the fluid grace of a predator. She still came to Clara for quiet moments. She still purred when Clara stroked her fur. But there was a new distance in her eyes. The wild was calling to her. They chose a release site in a remote part of Big Bend National Park. It was perfect. There was plenty of prey and no other bobcats to fight for territory. Luna was fitted with a GPS collar. It would track her movements and fall off on its own after a year. The morning of the release was crisp and cold. Clara rode in the back of the truck with Luna's crate. She rested her hand on the wire. She could feel Luna's energy inside. It was not fear anymore. It was anticipation. At the release site, the world was vast and beautiful. Rocky hills stood against a bright blue sky. It was bobcat country. "Are you ready, girl?" Clara whispered. Susan and the team stood back. They gave Clara space for her goodbye. Clara knelt by the crate door. Her hand was on the latch. "I want you to know something," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You taught me about trust. You taught me about healing.
You showed me what it means to be brave." A tear rolled down her cheek. "Now, go. Go show this desert how strong you are." She pulled the latch and opened the door. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then Luna stepped out. She was not rushing. She was not afraid. She walked with a calm purpose. She paused and looked around, her amber eyes taking in the new wide world. The morning sun lit up her spotted coat. She took a few steps. Then, about 20 feet from the crate, she stopped. She turned and looked back at Clara. Their eyes met. Clara tried to memorize everything about her: the tufted ears, the beautiful face, the wild, intelligent gaze. Luna held her look for a long moment. Then she gave a small, deliberate dip of her head. It was a nod. It was an acknowledgement, a farewell. Then she turned back to the desert. She walked away with steady steps, her tail held high. Soon, the landscape of rock and scrub swallowed her completely. Clara stayed on her knees long after Luna was gone. Tears streamed down her face. Susan came and put a hand on her shoulder. "You did it, Clara. You gave her back her wild heart." In the months that followed, the GPS data told a story of success. Luna had claimed a territory. She was hunting. She was thriving. Clara went back to her books, but she was different. Her art became focused on stories of rescue and rehabilitation. She wanted to show the world that even the most broken spirits could heal. She never saw Luna in person again, but she carried the memory of her everywhere. She remembered the terrified creature in the cage and the playful cat with the feather. She remembered the weight of her head on her leg and the deep, rumbling purr that had changed her life. Sometimes, when the wind blew across the Texas plains at night, it carried the faint, sharp call of a bobcat. Clara would be sitting on her porch. She would hear it, and she would smile. "I hear you, girl," she'd whisper into the dark. "I hear you." In the vast, wild beauty of Big Bend, a bobcat with amber eyes lived her life as she was meant to. She carried with her the faint, distant memory of a quiet woman, a woman who taught her that some hands do not bring pain. Some hands show you the way home.